Do you want to know the effects of authoritative parental control on child behavior? I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach all over the world about parenting, good communication, how to build strong family bonds, child development, and education, all through the lens of the principles of self-government. And in this video, we're talking about authoritative parenting and its effects. In this video, we're going to talk about the different types of parenting, specifically authoritative parenting. We're going to talk about the outcomes that the different types of parenting have on our children, for the better or for the worse. First off, I just have to mention this book right here, Popular Parenting Methods. This book actually talks about the 3 different types of parenting styles. Some people identify like 5, but really there's just 3, and then there's combinations between these 3. This book talks about the 3 different types of parenting that we're going to be discussing in this video. It goes into more detail about what I'm talking about today. I don't use the word authoritative parenting when I am talking about authoritative parenting in this book. I do use a different word. That word is traditional strict. So in this book, I talk about 3 different types of parenting, which are modern progressive parenting, bully fear-based parenting, and traditional strict parenting. Now, some people think on that type of a list, it sounds like a good idea, maybe to be modern progressive, because who wants to be known as strict? And certainly nobody wants to be a bully, right? Well, that's what I would have always thought until I really started diving into the methods of parenting and what those look like. So I teach parenting all over the world. I've done so since 1999. And back in those days, I actually took in treatment children into my home. Those children were all between the ages of 12 and 18. They came with a lot of different issues. They had processing differences as well as trauma. It was a treatment facility. If they didn't succeed in my home, they were going to be institutionalized. These youth changed so dramatically that actually the BBC in England asked if they could make a documentary of my family called The World's Strictest Parents. People were asking me to speak in churches, support groups, PTA groups, but when that show happened, that BBC show happened, everything changed for me. In fact, this is just one of the 15 books that I've written about parenting, some for children, some for parents, so that they can all learn the skills of self-government. Now, I have to tell you the name of this program because that's important when we're talking about authoritative parenting. So the name of the program was called The World's Strictest Parents. I didn't know if I should be offended by the fact that they were having me be on a program called The World's Strictest Parents. One day I was talking to a friend of mine. I said, they're going to do this program of me. It's called The World's Strictest Parents. I have a hard time with the fact that I'm going to be called strict. Now, if you've subscribed already to this channel, you know that I actually think of the word strict in a different way. Let me explain that to you now. So I had a friend who said to me, Nicholeen, you don't understand strict. You're actually one of the strictest parents I know. And then she said, a strict parent doesn't need to yell. Well, that threw me on my head. Wait, I thought strict parents were the ones that were yelling. I thought they were the ones hitting, grabbing their children, whispering not so sweet nothings in their ear, that type of thing. But no, I was wrong. Here was this older woman who knew a lot more about language than I did, telling me I was strict. Now I was confused. I didn't yell at my children. I didn't hit my children. How was I strict? She said, I'm not even going to tell you about it, Nicholeen. I want you to just go look up the word strict. So I went to Webster's 1828 dictionary. I looked up the word strict, and it basically meant a person who governs themselves by a certain set of principles. And then I realized, actually, I was strict. I was probably one of the strictest parents I knew because the principles that I believed and the practice that I had matched. That's what it means to be authoritative. Principle, practice, match. So what happens on modern progressive parenting is modern progressive parents think they have these high principles like, oh, we're going to have all these great things happen in our family, but their practice is way down here. They just give in to the child. They focus on how the child's feeling all the time. They let the child do their thing. They do their own parent thing. They create almost like 2 separate worlds within their family dynamic instead of unifying and working through all of their problems together. together, because that would be too time consuming for the modern progressive parent. They just want to do friendly, fun things with the child and then let the child learn how to handle their own problems. And there's a lot of different variances in that modern progressive, but the key thing is it's a hangover from Dr. Spock parenting, where people thought the goal of parenting was to be their child's friend. This led to a revolution in parenting that was actually not good. It led to wildness, emotional entitlement, and fractured relationships between parents and children. Even at the end of his life, Dr. Benjamin Spock said, I think I might have been wrong about what I was teaching about parenting. Nobody knows that part. They just still keep following his advice and try to become their child's friend instead of their child's parent. An authoritative parent, or traditional strict parent, understands who they are as a parent. They know their role. By the way, so do I. That's why I wrote this book, Roles: The Secret to Family, Business, and Social Success. Those parents understand who they are to their child as the parent. They understand their obligation to teach the child. Parents, one of their roles is teacher. One of the child roles is learner. If the teachers don't teach or the learners don't learn, then you have dysfunction in the family. They understand that. They recognize that if they don't live their roles, it actually hurts their children to let them just do whatever they want to do. So they focus on being their child's parent first, then recognizing if that happens really well, by the time they hit adulthood, they end up becoming the best of friends. So what about that bully, fear-based parent, that militant parent that is very authoritarian in their parenting? They might get loud, they might yell and hit, all of those things. They get emotional all the time. They think they're holding a high bar. In fact, they're stressing over that high bar all the time as they micromanage, but their parenting skills are way down here. So again, principles, practice, not a match. If your principles and practice do not match, you are not traditional strict. The bully, fear-based parent spends all of their days trying to control what their child is doing. So they micromanage them, they get angry at them, they start forcing them instead of trusting the learning process. That's just part of every child's development. Instead of teaching them skills ahead of time, they spend their time emotionally reacting to everything that's going wrong. This is incredibly draining. No wonder they get so grumpy. And the funny thing about the bully, fear-based parent is they flip-flop too. Sometimes they go on this end of the spectrum, bully, fear-based, and then when that's too draining, they go modern progressive and they do nothing. And then when it gets to be more than they can handle, they snap and they suddenly go bully, fear-based again. The authoritative, traditional strict parent does not have to go back and forth on that spectrum. Their energy level maintains because they are calm. And if you don't believe that I understand about calmness, please do, because I wrote another book called The Power of Calm. When a parent understands calmness within themselves, how to get themselves calm and stay calm while they're helping somebody else get calm at the same time, they have confidence, absolute confidence, and conscious power that's ready to be focused in an instant to meet any crisis. They are ready for the parenting with their children. What does all of that do for the children? It creates predictability. Speaking of predictability, this book, which I also wrote, called Parenting a House United, is the ultimate book in teaching parents how to be predictable to their children so that it decreases those problem behaviors and actually increases the behaviors that are good by pre-teaching them all proactively ahead of time. So this book helps format the structure where the calmness, the roles, and that authoritative parenting can happen. So what happens in a home where parents have a plan, when they know who they are, how to behave, what words they're going to say because they've planned it out? The children feel safe. The children feel bonded to their parents. They feel like they can talk to them about anything. They can be open in their communication. They don't spend all their time talking about negative behaviors because, quite frankly, there are less negative behaviors to talk about because most things have been proactively planned for. And when they do have to talk about something, it seems casual. It seems like there was no problem about that behavior. Let's just have a learning moment together as a family. Authoritative parents create confident, mature children. That's the actual effect of an authoritative, planned out, traditional, strict parent. If you are planning on being modern progressive because you want to be your child's friend, your child will feel alone. And I know because I've met a lot of parents and children who've been raised in those environments who struggle. Many of them came to my house as foster children because their parents were not doing what it took to give them the upbringing they needed. One time I met a woman on one of my teaching assignments in Las Vegas, Nevada, and she actually said to me, my parents were modern progressive. They gave me almost anything I want, except for all the attention that I needed, and they really didn't give me the training I needed either. I tried everything good to get their attention, didn't work. Then I tried everything bad that I could do to get their attention. I just wanted them to show me they cared enough about me to stop me, to give me a consequence for my actions, but they wouldn't do it. And now I've spent years and years of my life trying to fix myself from that modern progressive parenting. And that's why she was at my training. She's like, I gotta know a different way. I need traditional strict because modern progressive parenting hurt me and is killing my family. Everyone in her family was emotionally entitled and complaining, not helping out all the time. You have to know who you are. It doesn't have to be aggressive. In fact, good authoritative parenting should always feel calm. It should feel like you're all self-controlled, that you're self-governed. You're not controlling other people. You're controlling yourself. If you'd like to learn more about what that type of parenting is like, I have a great video that you should see next. It is called The Not So Known Secret for Parenting Success. It will go through a lot of skills that you can use in your home to really have the most positive parenting experience imaginable. Click on the link to that video next. I'll see you there.